I'm still trying to get back into the groove of things. A lot of December was just, holiday and
Yeah.
not doing much work. So I'm like, and then I've been sick like pretty much most of 2016. So
Oh, dude, not the best start in the world then.
at some point, I'd like to actually, get back into working.
Yeah.
But
It's always the toughest, like after December, because you got like 2 weeks of almost doing nothing, and then
Yeah.
as you've just said, you just had 12 days of basically being bedridden. So
yeah,
yeah, 2016 hitting off with a bang for you.
Yeah.
I know. I was like making all these resolutions. I'm going to be so productive this year. And
I think I did the same, man. Mine was like, I won't drink, I'll go to the gym, I'll do this, this, and this. So far, I've broken two of them and not, done anything with the other ones.
Yeah, did you just look at your gym shorts and just go, "That's Stella's better"?
Yeah, that sort of about sums it up, I guess. Apart from it wasn't shorts, it was a tracksuit.
All right, so let me. Yeah, we'll just start this interview. So three,
Cool.
2, 1. Hello and welcome to another huge update interview. And currently, it's been a while since we've done one. I'm joined with my co-host Peter Morris.
Hi there, good to see you guys. Or hear you.
Obviously, I'm Alistair McInnes, and our lovely guest is going to introduce himself right now.
Hi there, I'm Joel McDonald. I am the creator of Prune, a mobile game about cultivating trees.
Fantastic. So I guess one of the first questions we would also like to know is, and maybe the audience would like to know is, so why pruning trees?
Honestly, I kind of stumbled onto it. I wasn't necessarily looking for a game about gardening or,
Yeah.
agriculture, horticulture. I was looking for a game that was nice and small, that I could get my feet wet because this is my first indie project after working in AAA, and something for mobile. And my friend actually one day, Aaron Sanfilippo, he's the creator of Brace the Sun.
Yeah.
He happened to post this short little script for a tree generator, basically in Unity, on Twitter. He posted it on Twitter, and I started playing around with it, and that's sort of how I landed on the game on Prune.
Nice.
Yeah.
So the idea developed from that original Twitter sort of interaction.
Yeah. I couldn't figure out what to do with it at first, but it took like a week or two, and I think I was walking outside or something. There was a storm the night before, and I'd seen some trees with their branches falling down, and that's when it clicked in my brain that I could if you could actually interact with a tree and cut the branches, then maybe there's something there. Maybe that's a puzzle game. So
Yeah, definitely. It's an awesome kind of cool creative process how you got there. Combination of other kind of developer interaction then and environmental influences.
You've just mentioned in with what you just said, it's just like you worked in AAA.
yeah.
And you've now just made a small indie game. I was just wondered if you'd like to talk about like how the processes of like one versus the other a bit. That's
Sure.
okay.
So yeah, I worked at Raven Software here in Madison, Wisconsin, and they're primarily a shooter house. That sounds bad, but they make first-person shooters. They have a long history of that. Wolfenstein and Quake 4, and most recently Call of Duty.
Oh, which one?
Well, a bunch of them. So,
Yeah, they were mainly map pack builders, weren't you? If I remember correctly.
yeah, I mean, I contributed on Modern Warfare 3 primarily.
So what was like your role then in the AAA industry, like in that studio? What was your kind of title, you could say?
I was a designer, like a level designer, because that's where I got my start. Was like in high school and in college, in all my free time, I would be I was basically a hobbyist, like level designer. I was in the mod community for Quake 3.
Nice.
And, that's sort of what landed me the job. And so then, yeah, at Raven, my responsibilities ranged from actual, building out the levels, sort of the architectural side of things, to more of the scripting side, setting up all the events.
Oh, very cool. So this might be an obvious question. So why did you jump from kind of AAA development to indie?
Uh, yeah, I guess that's where my heart was at, was indie. Like I started following that probably back in 2008 or so.
Yeah.
And being in AAA for 7 years, it's sort of like visiting the sausage factory, seeing how the sausage is made, and you don't really want to eat the sausage anymore. So,
That's fair enough. And also, I believe it could be someone, wink, wink, maybe you, that did mention that they basically own your soul, if that's right, in any creative things that you come up with.
Yeah. I mean, Activision is not it's not a place where you can like have your own little side projects.
No, it's where dreams go to die, by the sound of it.
Yeah, anything that you do as a designer is sort of owned by them. So yeah, you don't have a lot of creative freedom outside of work, even.
Yeah, because I remember that it was it a year ago that John Carmack was having some law issues with ideas that he had thought of while being technically owned by them for a short period, for like the Oculus.
Oh, serious?
And it was just literally like he might have just written down on a piece of paper, just like virtual reality, and they would have gone, "That's ours now," type stuff.
Jeez.
I mean, a lot of big companies are like that. I think with John Carmack, it was maybe ZeniMax.
Oh yes, yeah, it would have been because of Bethesda, yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure like all the big publishers are very,
they want your fresh ideas, don't they? Really?
Yeah.
And so, kind of going back to kind of Prune, I guess. What was the creative process behind it? What sort of led you to go, okay, I'm doing this, and then how did you kind of fund yourself? Being an indie.
Right. So that was one of the nice things about working at Raven and working on Call of Duty was, you get paid well, and I'm generally pretty frugal with my money and like save it all. So I was able to save money over the years long enough to, to have a runway.
Oh, nice.
And so I was able to prototype different game ideas for the first 6 months or so after I quit my job back in fall of 2013. And I think having that time was a nice, luxury.
Yeah.
A lot of people have a very small window of time, but I could afford to basically mess around for that long, and that's what let me land on a game that felt special.
Yeah, definitely.
And then same thing for when I actually got into the full development of Prune was I originally thought it was going to be this game that would take maybe a couple months to finish. I thought it was going to be a very tiny game, and then and then I was up to like 6 months, and I was up to a year, and it was like gonna go crazy. Like I couldn't believe I was taking that long. But luckily I was, still fortunate enough to have some money in the bank account and not have to worry about getting going out and getting a job quite yet, although it was starting to get close.
How many months were you kind of thinking, okay, I've got to get a new job soon?
I think it was probably like I had maybe another 6 months after releasing the game. If the game would have flopped, I would have had maybe a little bit more time to do another quick project.
Yeah. But it was like all your eggs sort of in this basket, basically. And I mean, it paid off, obviously, very well. But that must have been very nerve-wracking and quite a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely adds to a lot of the stress and the, when you're in development, and especially if you're working from home by yourself, you just get, you can get depressed and discouraged, and disgusted with yourself that it's taking so long,
Mm.
and yeah, the money side of things doesn't help when you're like watching your
No.
bank account just drain down every month and not go back up.
Yeah, it's like,
But
what? Come on, what? Why not? Just a little bit of money, you know?
yeah, and it's like, am I just wasting like a year of my life and all this money on this thing that nobody's gonna play? Like that was my thought for probably 90% of development, because it was this weird thing. Like you don't get a lot of you know games on mobile that are quite like that. So I
Mm.
wasn't sure if it was gonna resonate with people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh,
because it's a very like kind of, well, it's a very indie and also quite a niche game, but obviously it was picked up by the masses.
yeah.
Um, what was really the biggest obstacle you faced whilst creating it, and maybe even like sort of getting it out there? What was the biggest obstacle with Prune's whole development?
Um, well, it was sort of, I would say, just finding the soul of the game, uh, because I hadn't really done that on my own or
Mm.
at all before. I mean, uh, so I listened to a lot of uh, successful indies like Jonathan Blow and so on, who would talk about finding the soul of your game and exploring the design space of your game, and how you need to make sure to give enough time to properly pay respects to the game mechanics and all that. And I think I sort of mistook that, and I ended up sort of wandering in the wilderness for a while for the first 6 months of the project, and
Mm.
I wasn't sure really what the heart of the game was. And so that was the biggest thing. Like, I could have maybe released it, in fall of 2014,
Yeah.
and that's maybe when it would have flopped, because I hadn't, like, I had maybe 60 or so levels, which is more than I shipped the final game with, but I hadn't found what was special about the game. That was before uh, I had sort of changed how trees grew and how your pruning interacted with the trees. It was much less expressive and much more rigid and sort of frustrating puzzles. And so yeah, that was the biggest hurdle, just figuring out uh, how I could really make it more expressive, which is what it was in my head all along. I just
Mm.
took me a while to figure it out, and it wasn't easy, because it meant sort of throwing out most of my code for growing trees,
And
and
then
that was hard.
redoing it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I'm playing it recently. Actually, I do love how organic it feels, and how like pruning it is very kind of peaceful way of say you had a stressful day, you could come home and you could kind of lie on the sofa. I could just picture you could kind of prune away, and it's a very nice um, kind of tranquil feel when you're playing it. Like de-stresses you. Was that kind of really the kind of soul that you're on about? Really, that kind of harmonious sort of nature when you play the game.
yeah. That's definitely something I was going for, because
Mm.
on I don't know about you, but sometimes you just want to plop down on the couch at the end of the day and get on your phone, your iPad, and you don't want necessarily a high stress, like uh, you know
Experience,
press,
yeah.
press like intensity.
Yeah.
Because I used to play a bunch of like competitive shooter games and StarCraft 2, and I would just get all tense like after 10 or 20 minutes of it. I'd be playing at night, and like, yeah, I'd have to stop because I was so tense. And so I wanted something that was sort of the opposite of that would help
People
uh,
relax.
be relaxing. Although, I mean, to be honest, like, the game has some stress as well, because the tree is growing pretty fast, and sometimes it takes some precision cuts to
Yeah.
to, to beat a level. But
Mm.
but I think overall it's within this context of I think the music helps too, from Kyle Preston. This context of relaxing.
Yeah, definitely. Like I haven't come across all the really, really tricky levels yet, but from the ones I've played, it's a really nice kind of peaceful environment. Um, really relaxing gameplay. And was that also what influenced you why you put it on mobile and tablet devices over PC? Like you mentioned, the idea of sitting down. You could have done it with a pad, but did you feel that using your finger was a better way of expressing the gameplay?
Yeah, as soon as I had, I mean, it took a few days when I first started working on a prototype to get to basically get it so that you had a tree that grew in real time, and then originally it was on the PC, and I would use the mouse to swipe the branches and cut them, and right away I knew that that was going to feel better on my iPad because it's just this sort of visceral tactile thing where you're actually touching the screen and interacting with the tree. And I mean it's okay on the PC too. It's just it's not the same. So that, yeah, I knew right away that I wanted to go mobile, which like all the prevailing indie advice that I had heard back when I quit back in late 2013, early 2014 was that, oh, don't go mobile. It's an unhealthy market, and you know, you're just gonna get swallowed by all the big fish that are out there, like Zynga and all that. And so I was pretty reluctant to do that at first.
Yeah, because it's a very saturated market, isn't it? All of them now, especially Android and iOS.
Right, and hundreds of games are released every week on iOS, but it just felt like it had to be on mobile. So I, against my better judgment, I ended up going with.
Well, speaking of mobile, of course, you decided to opt for the paid option over the kind of either free to play or free with advert model. You could say that was kind of a risky kind of idea. That model at the moment hasn't been doing as well. A lot of people have been thinking. What kind of led you to that decision of saying it has to be a paid app over the other two sort of suggestions?
I mean, ultimately, it comes down to personal taste. Like I can't stand free to play games. I just want to like pay for the game or app and be done with it and not have to think about it. So that's just personally what I like. So there was never even any question that I would go any other route. But then like also on sort of the game design side, whenever you go free to play, it changes, it like fundamentally changes what the game is, because every decision that you're making when you're designing the game is you're having to consider, well, how do I convince players to spend some money on this, right? Like, and sort of it twists games in a way that I'm not really interested in. So yeah, that was mostly it. It came down to personal taste and then the game design.
Do you think a game like yours could actually like change the discussion in the marketplace of like just convincing customers to actually start just buying full games again? Or do you think there could be a time where that could actually happen?
Well, I would hope so. I mean, it's not going to be just my game, but I think other games like Monument Valley have done a lot to get paid games into the limelight. And I think a lot of mobile users nowadays are sort of sick of free to play. They've dealt with their share of Candy Crushes or whatever, and they're ready for a little bit more.
A game with more depth, isn't it? Really, less shallow.
Museum is a weird word, but like more respectable experiences, like, or mature, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I was just like you say, like with your with developers, like you said when you were talking about the development, like you wanted to make it because you wanted that contact feeling, you wanted that the swiping, you wanted that type of like touch on the screen type feeling. So it's obvious that the mobile is can be made to make full price games, and it would be interesting to like I do feel like some game developers are moving in that direction, and I think like again like you guys like indies are gonna be able to like touch in that area a bit more freely because you're not going to be restrained by like making like quarterly like massive like payments or anything. You just you can make your projects, you can see what happens and just stuff like that. So it'll be I do hope it does change because this is getting oversaturated with this like current like wave of king products is getting kind of ridiculous recently.
Yeah, I'll give you that one definitely.
Yeah, and I think it's starting to change. Like I've been seeing a lot more uh, paid games do well, and there's been Alto's Adventure this year, and there's Framed and Lumino City, and a bunch of games that are at the $4 or $5 mark that have all done pretty well. And yeah, I really like developing for mobile because it tends to keep your projects tighter and leaner. It doesn't on PC. There's sort of this expectation that your game's gotta be this large like 10-20 hour experience, and I think the expectations are much higher there. Whereas with mobile, you can focus more on a small experience, a couple hours or like, I think it's also interesting when you do there's a ton of infinite runners, but I think that it's an interesting space as well, just like making something that's endlessly playable.
Yeah, you can keep going back to again and again and have a different experience because of the RAM generation code they've put in place.
Yeah. So I think there's still a lot of potential there.
How would you recommend people get on, I know, in the mobile market? Like, how will they get themselves noticed? Because, of course, you've won a series of awards for Prune, and it's got out there and it's done fantastic. What's the best advice you could give someone who's making a small mobile game to get noticed?
So I would say like stand out from the crowd. The mobile market doesn't need another match 3 or zombie tower defense game or whatever. Like there's a million of those out there, so like figure out how you can position yourself such that like your game is instantly it stands out like a sore thumb almost.
In a good way though, right? Because we've all seen what happens on Steam Greenlight at times, don't we?
Yeah, a friend when I first started when I first went indie, a friend recommended this book for me about it's a weird like 80s business book all about positioning, like how to fight for mind share basically. And I didn't think I was going to like it, but it actually it made a lot of sense, and it had a lot of application to indies.
Just what was it called? If you can remember.
It's actually sitting on this bookshelf right in front of me. It's called Positioning the Battle for Your Mind.
Oh, nice. Something I have to read myself then.
Yeah, it's a very short read, and it just gets that notion of like finding a foothold, and like figuring out what you can do better than anybody else, like what your special skill set is, and how to leverage that. So that was really useful.
Oh, nice. What's kind of next then, really? It's 2016. You have mentioned you have a slight cold at the moment, but what is next for Joel? What's next for Prune?
So yeah, step 1, get over my cold.
Yep.
Step 2, get back into the swing of things. Yeah, I thought by now I would be onto the next game, but just the amount of work it has been to port the game to the different mobile platforms, and then also for customer support, it's still keeping me busy. So, but I think in the next month or two, maybe I'll be able to start prototyping game ideas again.
Yeah.
Uh, I really have no idea what it's going to be. Like it's not necessarily going to be another game quite like Prune, but yeah, like it might end up being I stumble onto something it's not even on my radar right now.
Yeah, I guess you're gonna have another 6 months kind of prototyping phase like you had before, then really to kind of see what
Yeah.
comes about.
And honestly, that's my favorite part of game design is prototyping and just uh, trying a bunch of things and failing a bunch of times. It's just fun to play around with a lot of that stuff, and I have a bunch of ideas, so we'll see.
See what comes about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just ask, because you just mentioned about like post production on your game? Was that more of a surprise to you that you had to put more attention into like the post side of it than you were you were actually expecting?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole reception of the game was a huge surprise to me, first of
Yeah.
all. So, I wasn't expecting it to do that well, uh, and so with that, obviously, just comes more people playing and more issues that come up, which it's a good problem to have. And then being I guess, a game developer, I always underestimate how much time stuff is going to take. So,
Right.
so I figured, yeah, maybe 3 months after the game was released, back in July, I might be wrapping up and moving on. But yeah, it's going on maybe 6 months, 5 or 6 months. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, but it's got its own, you know,
Enjoyment, doesn't it?
enjoyment or engagement to it, and its own challenges. So it's a nice switch up from proper game development.
Exactly. I guess it's the kind of promoting side of things, the marketing. What is the best way you'd say to market?
Well, I'm sort of biased because I didn't have to do much. Apple picked it as their editor's choice, and so that would be my advice.
Well, since you didn't bribe them or anything,
Yeah, bribe Apple. But yeah, like that goes back into like if you make a game that's really unique and stands out, then it sort of markets itself. I mean, you still got to do the work and contact people, as many people as you can, and get it out there. But yeah, it felt like all of my marketing attempts sort of paled in comparison to any time it got picked up. Like I didn't, it got picked up by Time Magazine and New York Times and all these big publications, and it's not like I sent it to them. There's just that
the word of mouth kind of got it there.
Do you feel like the indie community like somehow helped in that, like the support or anything? There's like using like social media just to spread it around. Do you feel like being in contact with other developers helped promote it a bit more than you could just by yourself?
Yeah, there's definitely some of that. Like I tried to, send the game to a bunch of indies like before it was released, and not only did that help with like really good feedback, but they would share it on Twitter and stuff like that, and I think that helped. Like, it's a very like organic, complicated thing. The social marketing and marketing on social networks and all that, and so I think all of that sort of helps the game rise up to this level where it can start to get picked up by larger press and publications. So
yeah,
nice. So what are you kind of most looking forward to for the rest of the year then? Like games wise, is there any developers that you're following personally, or?
Well, so I'm a big fan of Jonathan Blow's work, so The Witness, I think, is later this month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been waiting for that for years.
Only two, right? He last meant to be a few years ago. It was 2013 when he said it would be out. 2014.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know when he originally, but it's been in development for like 6 years or something
Yeah, I
ridiculous.
remember hearing about it in like 2011.
Mm.
It's been a while in the making, and it does
Yeah,
look like it looks like a good game.
Oh yeah, he's put a lot of time and polish into it, I think, and I imagine it will pay off.
yeah. So definitely that, and then let's see. Adam Saltzman's working on a game, Overland, I think it is.
Overland, cool.
It's this game. It's actually a game that like I wanted to make, basically. Like
He stole your idea, right?
he stole my idea. No, but he's probably doing it way better than I could have. So it's this game where you're on this sort of road trip across America and like um, I think sort of post-apocalyptic. I think.
Hmm.
Uh, but anyway, it's sort of this survival roguelike type game. Uh, looks really good. I love the art style.
Nice. We'll have to check it out.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's all low polys, isn't it?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
that it? Yeah. No, yeah, I'm just checking it out right now. It's just that looks like something that's going to be very fun to see in the future. Actually, yeah.
Fantastic.
And then actually, I think today a game comes out called That Dragon Cancer. Have you guys heard of it?
No, Dragon Cancer, yes? Is that right?
That Dragon Cancer.
No. What's
It's
it about exactly?
it sounds like the saddest game ever. It's about basically the creator of it had a son who had cancer and died from that, and so the game is sort of recreating their experience.
Wow,
Uh,
that's heavy.
yeah, yeah. And so I feel like that I'm scared to play it, but I feel like I probably should play it. Like it's an important game to play.
Hmm.
Um,
I imagine it will be very emotional.
yeah, probably.
It,
Like I'm a dad with two sons, ages 5 and 2, so
It would definitely hit home then.
it's gonna hit home pretty hard.
Yeah.
it's all
But I
right.
mean that.
There is a positive light to his website page because I'm just on it now. He has
Yeah.
invited everybody to a pancake party, so
Oh.
there is.
There is something there. Good.
Yeah.
I'm looking
So
at the artwork now. Actually, it's very interesting how the people don't have any faces. I'm
mhm.
loving the kind of cubolic art style.
Yeah, that seems like a popular art style lately. The low poly.
Mm. It's kind of come back in, hasn't it? Before it was the pixel art that was very
Yeah.
popular.
Yeah. I was never able to get into the pixel art so much for some reason. Maybe because I don't know. I don't have a lot of nostalgia for those games of my childhood,
Mm.
but I really dig the low poly art for some reason. So
There's something about it, isn't there? It's like that PS1 style polys, but with amazingly well textured and light and lit backgrounds.
hmm
Definitely very cool. So, is there any questions you'd like to ask us at all, Joe?
um, what do you guys have planned for 2016?
Throw it around, yeah.
More interviews and obviously getting more out there.
hmm
It's been great so far. This whole little project of mine and getting Pete involved was all pretty much just spawned out of kind of just being on Twitter and talking to indie devs on there, and I just thought, why don't I just start recording these like conversations that I'm seeing, these like you're saying, like when you're talking about how your whole entire project for Prune came out of someone sharing a tree generator asset on Unity, and it's just like those type of stories that I thought like this is something I want to get out there because
hmm
it shows people or like pretty much of any age that like getting into game development is something you can do. It's something that is, especially with like the community that has been growing, especially over the last 5 years within the indie scene, that it's a very friendly, helpful, and like very supportive place. And I just thought like getting these interviews and like slowly getting them out there, like it would help spread the word of just like games can do more. Like again, like Prune is a very different game, but yeah, it's being very successfully received, and it's something that I would like to help promote a bit, or like just hear more about the story of the development, which was very nice to hear, by the way.
Yeah, thanks very much, Joel, for coming on.
Sure thing.
You know, it kind of shows that anyone has the ability to be a designer or a developer. All they've got to do is sort of work hard. And it's interesting, everyone's story has similarities, is what we're finding, but then there's obviously some key differences, maybe in the kind of funding or the marketing side of things.
Yeah. That's something I've always felt is, you know, like even working in AAA, people tend to fall into their roles of like, oh, I'm an artist or I'm a programmer. I don't do design, but I've always felt like, yeah, there's nothing really special about doing game design. It's like I feel like anybody can do it, you know,
if they want it enough.
Yeah,
if they want it enough, and yeah, like, and it helps to have different voices, different backgrounds coming at game design, you know, from different angles. Like that's always been my thought, is the more the better, you know.
Definitely, all the different stories. So there'll be a story that everyone else can kind of sort of relate to, and think, well, maybe I can do that as well. And I think that's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
cool.
I think we've asked everything. I feel pretty happy with how this is all gone. So I think we'll start wrapping this all up.
Cool.
So yeah, thank you so much for like coming on and talking to us and letting us hear your story, and you telling us more about the development of Prune and all that. So is there is there anything you'd like to like obviously promote? If you wouldn't mind, just like saying
any closing words, basically.
Any
Joe.
closing words? Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I should mention, like, my family's actually been a big part of it. Like I mentioned, I have two boys, and my wife stays at home and watches them, and that's probably been one of the biggest things to keep me sort of balanced and sane. Working from home is having others there, having my family there to sort of keep me in check. Because if I was working by myself, I would probably, I don't think I would have been as, you know, I don't think I would have been successful. I probably would have like burned out like a lot sooner, because I would have had unhealthy working hours and nobody to like unload all of my issues on and all that. So I just want to thank them, I guess, would be my closing words.
Fantastic. We'd again like to thank you again for coming on. For everyone else who's out there, Prune is available on Windows, tablet and mobile, iOS and Android.
All right.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep. This has been another interview of Huge Update. You can find us on Twitter at Huge Update. I'm Alistair McInnes, at Alistair Os on Twitter. Pete?
And I'm Peter Morrish. I'm Peter J. Morrish on Twitter. Literally look that up and you'll be able to find me. And of course, Joel, you are?
Yeah. I'm Joel McDonald, and on Twitter, I'm MCDJOEL.
All right. So, thank you very much. And thank you for listening.
Take care now.
Thanks, guys.